Okay, so you guys have sent us some really interesting stuff about changes to UK tax rules,
Yeah,
and specifically for side hustles.
exactly.
And so we thought we'd do a deep dive into what we've got and really try and work out
Yeah.
what it all means for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big deal, right? The UK's trading allowance is going up.
Okay.
So that's the amount of money you can earn
Yeah.
from like side gigs
Yeah.
without paying tax.
Yeah.
And it's going from £1,000 now
Right.
all the way up to 3,000 by 2029.
Wow.
So we're going to look at how that's going to work,
Okay.
what it means for your money,
Yeah.
and maybe even how it could help you start something new.
So, can you give us a quick reminder of what the trading allowance is right now?
Sure. So right now you can earn up to £1,000 a year from, casual trading
Right.
or like a small side business,
Yeah.
and you don't have to tell HMRC about it.
HMRC.
Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs.
Right.
That's the tax man.
Yep.
And you don't have to pay any income tax on it.
Okay, so if you're under that £1,000 limit, you just, you're good.
You're
You
good.
don't have to worry about any tax stuff.
Yeah, it's designed to just make things simple
Right.
for people who are making a bit of extra cash on the side.
So, who's actually using this? Who are we talking about here?
Oh, it could be loads of people,
Yeah.
like if you sell stuff online,
Yeah.
like on Etsy,
Right.
handmade stuff,
Yeah.
or eBay, vintage clothes, whatever.
Okay.
If you're making less than £1,000 from that,
Right.
you're covered.
Okay.
Or maybe you're a freelancer, you pick up gigs on Fiverr or Upwork,
Yeah.
and it's not just online.
Okay.
You could be a dog walker in your neighborhood,
Right.
or a student who tutors,
Yeah.
or even a handyman who does odd jobs.
Yeah.
The point is, if you're making a bit extra on the side, this allowance is there to help.
Okay, so that's where we are now.
Right.
£1,000 is the limit.
Yeah.
But what about this increase?
Yeah, the big news.
Yeah, the big news.
So it's going up in stages.
Okay.
So by 2025, it'll be £1,500.
Okay.
Then in 2026, it goes up again to 2,000.
Right.
Then it stays there for a year, and then in 2028, it jumps to 2,500.
Okay.
And finally, in 2029, we hit the magic number, £3,000.
It's interesting it's being rolled out like that.
Yeah.
In stages. Is there a reason for that?
Well, government says it's to give everyone time to adjust.
Right.
Both people like us
Yeah.
and HMRC.
Right. The tax man.
Exactly. So that, no one's caught out by a sudden change.
So, okay, why are they doing this? Why is the government tripling this tax-free allowance?
Well, they've given a few reasons.
Okay.
One of the main ones is to support small businesses
Right.
and that kind of gig economy that's growing so fast.
Makes sense.
They want to make it easier for people to earn extra money without getting bogged down in tax paperwork
Right.
straight away. So it's about simplifying the system for everyone,
Okay.
people with side hustles and a tax man.
Right.
They're also hoping it'll boost the economy
Okay.
because when it's easier to earn money, people are more likely to start their own thing.
Makes sense.
And that's good for everyone.
And I think you mentioned something about them wanting to be more in line with other countries.
Yeah, that's another point they made. They want to make the UK's tax system more competitive
Okay.
compared to places like Ireland and Germany.
Okay, so it's about helping people and helping the economy.
Exactly.
The chancellor actually said something about this, right?
Yeah, he did. He said, let me find the exact quote. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He said, this measure is intended to empower more people to develop additional income streams without burdensome tax administration.
So it's all about making it easier for people to earn extra money.
Exactly.
So who's actually going to benefit from this the most?
Well, potentially millions of people. Yeah, at the moment, about 1.2 million people are using the trading allowance.
Okay.
But they reckon that once it goes up to 3,000, that number could go up to over 3 million.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
And don't forget, online side hustles are huge these days.
Yeah, true.
About 43% of all side hustles are happening online.
Right.
And overall, there are like 6.5 million people in the UK with a side hustle.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, and that's a 34% increase since just 2020.
Wow.
So it's a big trend.
So who are these people? What kinds of side hustles are we talking about?
It's a real mix,
Okay.
A big chunk, 29%, are craft sellers.
Okay.
So people making and selling things.
Right.
Then you've got service providers. That's 24%.
Okay, what does that mean?
Things like cleaning, dog walking, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then 22% are online retailers.
Ah, so people selling stuff online.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And 14% are tutors and teachers. And then there's 11% who are doing all sorts of other things.
So it's really diverse.
Yeah, there's something for everyone.
You said earlier that the UK wants to be more in line with other countries.
Yeah.
So how does it actually compare, like, right now?
Well, at the moment, the UK's allowance is a bit lower than some other places.
Okay.
Like Ireland has a tax-free allowance of about £4,200,
Okay.
and Germany's is around $2,000.
Okay.
So we're a bit behind.
Okay.
But once we get to $3,000 in 2029,
Yeah.
we'll actually be one of the more generous countries.
Right.
So that's good news.
So all this is interesting, but what does it actually mean for people?
Right.
Like, can you give us some examples of how this will save people money?
Sure. Let's say you're Sarah, and you sell handmade jewelry online,
Okay.
and you make, say, £2,500 a year.
Yeah.
Right now, you'd have to pay tax on $1,500 of that
Okay.
after you take off the £1,000 allowance.
Got it.
But by 2029, all of that $2,500
Yeah.
would be tax-free.
Okay.
So you wouldn't have to pay any income tax on it.
That's a good deal.
Or let's say you're James, and you're a weekend tutor,
Okay.
and you make £4,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right now, you'd pay tax on $3,000 of that.
Right.
But by 2029, you'd only pay tax on $1,000.
Okay.
So you could save, depending on your tax bracket, between £200 and £400 a year.
Wow. That's a lot.
Or how about Deepika? She does online surveys,
Huh?
and she makes £900 from that.
Okay.
And she also sells things at market stalls
Yeah.
and makes £1,200 from that.
Okay.
So that's $2,100 in total.
Right.
Right now, she probably has to declare her market stall income,
Yeah.
but by 2029, both of those incomes would be covered by the allowance.
Right, because it's under 3,000.
Exactly.
Okay, so how can people work out how much they might save?
It's pretty simple, really. You take your total side hustle income
Yeah.
and subtract the trading allowance.
Which is 1,000 right now.
Yeah, for now. But remember, it goes up over time.
Right. Right.
So what's left over is your taxable income.
Okay.
And you multiply that by your tax rate, which for most people is 20%.
Okay.
So let's say you make $2,500 from your side hustle.
Yeah.
You take off the £1,000 allowance.
Yeah.
You're left with $1,500.
Yeah.
Multiply that by 20%.
Okay.
And that's £300 in tax.
Right.
But by 2029, with the £3,000 allowance, you wouldn't pay any tax on that $2,500.
So there's potentially a lot of money to be saved here.
Exactly.
But are there any catches? Like, what do people need to be careful about, even with this new allowance?
Yeah, good point. I mean, it's not a free-for-all.
Right.
You still need to keep good records.
Even if you're under the allowance.
Yes, even if you're under the
I
allowance,
see.
because HMRC might want to check you're eligible.
Okay.
And remember, the allowance is for your income before expenses.
Okay.
So you can either claim the allowance or deduct your expenses.
Right.
Whichever works out better for you.
Okay, so choose whichever one gives you the lowest tax bill.
Exactly.
That-
And if your income's over the allowance, you'll still need to do self-assessment
Okay.
and file a tax return.
And the trading allowance, that's different from the personal allowance, right?
Yeah, completely separate.
So you get both.
Exactly.
Okay.
And don't forget, these are planned changes. Things could change.
Right.
But there is a lot of support for this.
Okay, speaking of which, what's the general reaction been to these changes?
Really positive, actually.
Uh.
The Federation of Small Businesses, they did a survey.
Yeah.
And 78% of small businesses and side hustlers were in favor.
Okay.
And the government's own consultation showed even more support.
Oh, really?
Yeah. 84% of people were happy about the increase.
Okay.
IPSE, the Association of Independent Professionals, and the Self-Employed.
Yeah.
They called it a welcome boost.
Okay.
And even the Institute for Fiscal Studies, who are usually pretty cautious,
Right.
said it was meaningful tax simplification.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I think it's fair to say this has been well received.
So this is more than just about individuals, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about the wider economy.
Right.
I mean, the way we work is changing, right?
Yeah.
More and more people are doing side hustles
Right.
and using the internet to make money.
Yeah, the gig economy.
Exactly. And the government's recognizing that with this change.
Right.
I mean, remember, 6.5 million people in the UK have side hustles,
Yeah, we said that earlier.
and that's a 34% increase since 2020.
That's a lot of people.
And they're contributing to the economy about £72 billion a year.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah. And this increase is a way of supporting that growth.
So what happens now? Like, how do these changes actually become law?
So it's going to be included in a future Finance Act, and then it has to be debated and approved by Parliament.
Right, the House of Commons and the House of Lords.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then HMRC will have to update all their guidance.
Right, to reflect the new rules.
Yep. And it also needs to be made compatible with making tax digital.
Okay, the government's big digital tax project.
Exactly.
But it sounds like this is pretty much a done deal.
Well, there seems to be cross-party support,
Okay.
so it's very likely to happen as planned.
So for those listening who are thinking of starting a side hustle, what should they do now?
Well, the best thing is to start keeping track of your income.
Right, even if it's small.
Exactly, even if it's just a few pounds here and there.
Yeah.
And if you think you might go over the allowance,
Right.
it's a good idea to learn about self-assessment.
Right, so you're prepared.
Exactly.
Okay.
And keep records of your expenses.
Right, all those business costs.
Yeah, because you might be able to deduct those instead of claiming the allowance.
Okay.
And think about how you might grow your side hustle in the future.
Right, because the allowance is going up?
Exactly, there's more opportunity coming.
Okay, so some quick fire questions.
Yeah.
Records. Do you really need to keep them even if you're earning less than the allowance?
Yes, absolutely. You might need them to prove to HMRC that you qualify.
Okay, and what about the property income allowance?
Yeah, that's separate.
So you can use both the trading allowance and the property income allowance?
Yes, you can.
Okay, good to know.
But keep in mind, the property income allowance isn't going up right now.
Okay.
Just the trading allowance.
Right.
It's worth checking with HMRC on that.
Okay, what about benefits?
Yeah, that's important. Even if your income's below the allowance,
Right.
it could still affect your benefits or tax credits.
Okay, so check with the relevant agencies.
Exactly.
Do you need to tell HMRC if you're earning under the allowance?
Generally not, no, but keep those records just in case.
Okay, last one. Can people with full-time jobs use the trading allowance?
Absolutely. It's designed for people with side hustles.
Okay, great. Thanks for all that.
No problem.
That was a really helpful overview.
Glad it was useful.
It seems like these changes are going to be good news for a lot of people,
Yeah, definitely.
whether they're already running a side hustle
Yeah,
or thinking about starting one.
exactly. It's a good time to be thinking about those side hustles.
Okay, so to sum up, the trading allowance is going up,
That's right.
which means more people can earn more money tax-free.